Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only.
Oh, have I got your attention now?
Good morning, guys. What's going on?
Hey.
Not a whole lot. I think I'm doing better than Don right now.
I'm good.
This is normal for Costa.
Yeah.
Well, good morning, guys. Welcome to Coffee with Closers. We are a man down today. David Dodge is actually on a plane right now, going to Nashville to join Don Costa. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it, and maybe that's a good thing. I'm not sure. But that's why Dave's not here. But we do have an awesome guest. We have Sam Prim. Sam, how are you, bud? Good morning.
I'm doing well. How are you guys? You ready to have a fun show?
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, Sam is an absolute beast in the real estate space. Okay, he's flipping 250 plus homes a year, and he's also got about 25 million in kind of buy and holds, anything from storage units, apartments, rentals, single families, all of that good stuff. He does some coaching as well. So a wealth of knowledge. So it's a pleasure, Sam, to have you on. So we appreciate you joining us. So yeah, Sam, tell us a little bit about you, just for the guests, while people are logging on here. Tell us a little bit about your backstory. How did you get into real estate?
Yeah, kind of the path that I think most people take, and I suggest people taking is, had a full-time job, thought I was going to work for a company till I was 65, retire, kind of like my parents did, kind of that whole mindset that we're all kind of taught growing up. But as I started to, start that full-time job out of college, just kind of wasn't enough for me, kind of looking ahead. I didn't feel like retiring when I was 65 with, a 401k and IRA and, kind of too old to enjoy it. So started to build a rental portfolio and flip houses on the side with my buddy Lucas. We did that for about 4 or 5 years, built up a stable of enough portfolio and connections and kind of a network to where we felt comfortable quitting our full-time jobs, which we did. We ended up quitting our full-time jobs in 2018 timeframe. We partnered with Brian, a local company that I think you guys are going to have him as a guest on here in a few weeks, in a local house buying company, and then continued to grow and expand our rental portfolio and just kind of been pedal to the metal here these past couple of years.
That's awesome. Is Brian's with Faster Homes?
Yep. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
Brian, myself, and Lucas all own Faster House. Yep.
Faster House. Got it. That's right. All right. Because I came out. So you're obviously based in St. Louis, right?
Yep.
You're raised in St. Louis. It's crazy. Like St. Louis produces some of the best, I guess, in our space. There's so many people in St. Louis that are doing great. So you're with that. You said you left your job in 2018, right?
Mm-hmm.
How long was you in the business before you left your job?
About 3 years. So 3 years kind of doing it on the side. First year we bought 1 rental. Second year we bought like 3 or 4. The third year like 10. So I mean, a lot of the traction has come expectedly. Like obviously I'm devoting 56 hours a week to this. So everything goes a lot faster and, goes a lot further than just doing it, 10 hours a week on the side when you have time. So yeah, it's just kind of everything kind of exploded and the market's been good as well.
Yeah. And when did you join up with Brian then? Was that from
that
the
2018? Yep. That was part of the kind of deal. Like, all right, I'll quit my job. If we can, partner up in this business, and then, I'll be able to grow rentals on the side, and then also, have this business as more of a, active, stable income. You don't make a ton of money, as I'm sure you guys know. Owning rental properties, that cash flow is not super huge at first, and you don't really want to tap into it anyway. So the active income of the wholesaling and the flipping really made it a no-brainer to quit and get that income, as well as be able to expand my rentals.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. And with that, you building now with these rentals and what you're doing, are you doing what Dave does? Are you doing the Burr method? Is that exactly what? Yeah.
Yep. The Burr method. Yep. I mean, we do, exactly what David does. We burr everything. So the 25 million in rentals that I own, like you mentioned earlier, 5 apartment complexes. We burred 3 of them, and we're in the process of burring the other 2. The storage facilities, we're in the process of burring, and then all the houses, almost 100 single family rentals. So, you can burr single family houses, but you can burr anything that produces cash and grows in value, any type of real estate. So yeah, we've taken that BRRRR kind of and brought it into other avenues, not just single family rentals, and it's worked out pretty well so far.
Awesome. Do you have how long do you have to hold it before you can? I know Dave's probably about 3 months where he like does the BRRRR on it when he refinances back out. Is that your time frame on single family? And then how does that work on the commercial side, the storage units? Like how quickly can you refi back out?
Yeah, the single family. So we do it as quickly as possible. If you're familiar with the BRRRR method, you want to get out of that short term funding as quickly as possible. A little higher interest rates. So we do it as quickly as possible. As soon as the rehab's done, we actually refinance. We built relationships with our banks that we actually buy, rehab, refinance, then rent. So we're able to get that house refinanced before we even get a tenant in place, just because of the relationships we developed and the trust we have with our banks. So we do it as quick as possible. Some banks will want that seasoning period. We'll have to own it for a few months first, or do that. But we get the rehab done as quick as possible. Sometimes it's 30 days, sometimes it's 120 days, depending on the length of it. But then we get out of that out of that short-term money quickly and get into the long-term funding. So that's quick. The apartments and the storage, that's a longer play. So like our biggest storage facility, we bought it about a year and a half ago. It was 66 units, kind of painted it, spruced it up, optimized it, got a website, all that stuff. So made it performing well. And then there was some open land next to it that we bought as well at the same time. And we built a couple additional storage facilities on that and are in the middle of filling those up now and doing some outdoor boat and RV storage. So that's mid BRRRR, I guess I would say. But running the projected numbers based on cap rate, that should maybe take 2 years total. By the time we're done, we got to fill everything, show the bank the new cash flow, so how the property performs, and then be able to, refinance out at 80%, just like you do on houses. And similar with apartment complexes, we've done the same thing where it just takes a couple of years. You buy it at a discount, you add value, not by fixing it up like you do a house, but you add value by making it a little bit nicer, increasing efficiencies, making market rent, and then there's enough value there. But it just takes a couple of years for you to pull your money out and pay back your initial lenders. Same thing, just kind of bigger numbers and more doors.
Nice. And is this just in St. Louis, or are you doing this?
Yep, everything's in the St. Louis market, like you alluded to earlier. The St. Louis market kind of seem to produce a decent amount of pretty successful investors because it's just such a good market. You don't get the crazy swings like you get in Phoenix. Zillow's selling a couple thousand houses over there right now. All the crazy swings that the coast get. St. Louis is just in the middle of the country. We don't get crazy highs, crazy lows. It's a great rental market. So it's just a really, really good market for being an investor, flipping, renting, or landlording. It doesn't have the crazy swings, but it gets a decent amount of appreciation and cash flow. So I think that's probably part of the reason why you've seen some pretty successful real estate investors come out of the St. Louis market.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I got one more, and then Don, you can jump in here. I'm just intrigued. So with your strategies, obviously you flip homes as well. What's your number one thing to do as your company? Is it to search for rentals? Is that the number one thing, or is that kind of a backup?
So Brian, myself, and Lucas own Faster House, and Brian's not really in the house acquisition rental phase. He's kind of in his pay down phase. Most people add and then pay that debt down. He's in that phase, so he doesn't really add rentals. Lucas and I do. So if something makes really good sense as a rental, then we will keep it. But we don't keep every perfect rental property because other people on our team want to add rentals. We have our flipping team is about 20 people, and I would say at least half of them are growing rental portfolios themselves. So if it's a great rental, we'll probably keep it, or somebody on the team will keep it. And then after that, we do whatever makes sense. Does it make sense to wholesale it? Does it make sense to flip it? Just really depends on a lot of things. We don't like to get into these $150,000 rehab. So if it needs 20 to 40 grand in and out quickly, we'll flip it. If it needs more than that, or it's not an area you want to be, or our crews are busy, then we'll go ahead and wholesale it. But of our 250 houses, we're probably going to wholesale 175. So majority of what we do is wholesaling because we don't want to be too overexposed and have too much money out there.
Nice, got it. Okay, Don, what you got?
Oh, I got a lot of questions. You talked about having your team being allowed to take on some of the rentals. How do you structure that? And as far as, because obviously if you have an opportunity to rehab it or wholesale it, you could make more money on that project versus I'm assuming you're giving your team a deal, or are they matching what you could potentially make? How do you walk me through that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So this one took a little bit of collaboration and some talks with everybody, and it's kind of silly to say, but it is completely true. One of our core values is mindset of abundance. The fact that we're buying 250 houses a year, there's going to be more. Don't get all, for lack of a better term, butthurt about, not being able to get a rental, whether it's us or somebody else on the team. So that's the kind of the foundation of it. There's more deals to come. So don't get too worried about, you can't buy this deal at this right price, or, you didn't get this one because somebody else on the team got one. It really seems to work out pretty well having that in the back, the backbone. And then how we buy them is we just are pretty, realistic. If we buy it for 100 and we can probably sell in the open market for 120, we'll sell to somebody on the team for a little bit of a discount, 115, 117, something like that. So, we don't give it to them half off. And actually, Lucas and I, we're the ones adding rentals. We pay as much or more than anybody because we want to feed our active income as well, right? So when I keep them as a rental, we don't, buy them at what our buyers bought them at. We upcharge them at least what the market would get because we're okay leaving a few grand in there and feeding our active income. So it's just more of a case-by-case basis. And our goal is to feed the team. It's kind of its own self-sustaining system. Yes, we could make a little bit more money posting it on the open market or closing it, but then you deal with sometimes people, backing out or dealing with that. So we don't mind the ease of our in-house team. Yeah, we could probably maximize a little bit. We'll probably sell 60, 70 houses in-house this year. We could probably make a few more grand selling them out, but it might be more of a pain, and kind of that simple of when we buy 25 houses a month, if 6 of them we know go to the team members, that's easy. We just have to focus on the other 19. So we could probably maximize profit a little bit more, but it's more about the culture and the team building. And we want our entire team to create, we believe in real estate rental so much, we want our entire team to do the same thing. So we're probably not maximizing our profit, Don, but we're definitely maximizing our team. Nobody leaves, everybody gets in the door, stays, they work hard. So it's kind of probably in a full circle, we end up making more, but it doesn't look like that on paper right on the spot, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. 25 houses a month, I know the machine to do that, what it takes. So I'm just curious about your marketing, like what you're doing now that's working, and what changes you're seeing as far as what's been working, what isn't working, what that kind of thing. Walk me through all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So we've done a few different things over time. Our biggest differentiator that we do, that I beat the drum all the time when I'm talking to new investors, experienced investors, whether we're at our mastermind that we're in, nationwide mastermind, or we're local talking to people, is if you're looking to buy a handful of houses a year, you don't have to spend any money in marketing. Of our 250 houses, 150 of them, literally looked at the numbers the other day, I'm projecting out what we're going to do. 150 of them are going to be from $0 in marketing spend. We're talking to other wholesalers. We're talking to real estate investors, mold remediators, elder law attorneys. So our four full-time buyers are out there all day, every day. Their job is, we provide marketing, and I'll get into marketing here in a second. We provide marketing lead or buy. Every single marketing buy you get, you need to have at least one that you bring in on yourself. So it's no spend to us. It's just their time and energy talking to real estate agents and wholesalers. And if you get 5 or 10 really good connections that, come across deals, that can be 5 or 10, 15 houses a year if they each come across several different deals. So just connecting with people in the industry, going to your local meetups and talking to people is the biggest lead source for us. 150 houses, we're going to have $0 in marketing spend this year because we're out networking. So that's the biggest thing I would suggest people doing, and that we've had success with, and kind of we've been preaching that for a while. And it's some of the people we talk to, some other companies that we deal with and collaborate with, they are starting to open up a wing in that and focus on the connector leads, as we call it. But as far as our marketing goes, we've done nothing special. Like I'm sure most people, there's no secret sauce. I wish I had it. We do, we have a wrapped car that someone drives for dollars. They inspect our rentals and they're also driving for dollars. We do TV ads. We just ramped that up. We're really going heavy into TV to try to build a brand here in St. Louis. We do direct mail. We do some Facebook ads and some SEO. So nothing crazy outside the box. We've been spending $20,000 to $25,000 a month in marketing, which isn't very much for buying 250 houses, hence all those connector leads, but we're ramping. We're probably going to double that marketing budget going forward to try and kind of scale a little bit.
Okay.
Nice.
Just you mentioned direct mail, and I wanted to pick on that for a second because I've seen some changes. It's kind of top of the conversation internally with deliverability and call responses and stuff like that. Have you seen that happen in St. Louis? Like, what's your take on what's happening with direct mail right now, and how your company is implementing?
Yeah, so direct mail, yeah, that's, I mean, from my experience, the last few years, like, I haven't been doing this for 20 years. It kind of seems to go in waves. There's some time where we send out a bunch of mail and we're getting a 1.25% response rate. Then we send what we think is a similar list, similar piece, and we're getting, a 0.25% response rate. So it just kind of seems to go in waves. I think the biggest thing is being consistent. And we've definitely seen some upswings and some downswings in response rates as they go. But what we're kind of trying to do is just to build that brand more than anything. Now we're kind of going away from, you guys know, when you're buying these distressed properties, you have to hit the person at the right time. You can scan lists and try to get pre-foreclosures and bankruptcy and divorce, but you got to hit them at that right time when they're ready to sell. It's usually just throwing as much as you can out there as accurately as you can and hoping something, or trying to take advantage of something happening that person needs to sell. So what we're trying to do more is not as worried about that, is really worried on some brand building pieces. We're spending 8 times more a month in TV, and we're just trying to build that brand and not worry as much about those response rates. Just be consistent with it, and just not shy away from it just because it's not working as strong. I'm sure maybe you guys are seeing the same thing. It's not working as much right now. Are you guys kind of seeing the same thing? As your response rate's been less? Is that kind of where you're coming from?
Well, no, the reason I'm just kind of curious about, and it's not something we need to stay on, but I've been direct mail for a lot of years, and it's been a really, really great lead source. And they've changed how they deliver. They've done this Delivering for America plan that launched August 29th, and instead of flying mail, they're now going to truck mail. And we all know what's going on right now with truck drivers and deliverability of anything, which just seems asinine at best to change from flying stuff to trucking at this point. And the amount of mail I sent out 30,000 pieces in a 2-week period. 15,000 1 week, 15,000 the next, and usually that would get a couple hundred, 200-300 calls. They would at least get us 100, basically kick rocks calls, right? And one 14,000 piece list got us 38 calls total. So that's the thing, and I'm just trying to figure out if it's pacing and timing and when things land, and if people are seeing it in different markets and that kind of thing. So my thing is just digging into all the fundamentals of what makes things tick, right? And because that's how we know how to maximize our dollars. So and right now my best marketing channel, for whatever reason, is not performing at the same speed. Now I'm not going to say it's not going to perform, but it's not performing at the same speed it normally does. And I was just curious if you were affected the same way.
Yeah, so we don't do near as much as you do. We kind of do like little lists, and then we have a VA every single day, scrub obits and probate, and we batch them and send them out. We kind of have a little bit more hands-on which approach, which I'm sure you guys do that kind of stuff too. So that's usually our more productive list. The big batch lists that we stack don't perform as well for us, and we're kind of starting to realize we're okay at marketing, but not the best. So we're actually hiring out, our direct mail, and we're hiring out the TV. We used to work directly with the TV channel, and now we're hiring a broker to, buy times on all the channels, and we're completely hiring out our direct mail. So we're not great at it. So we're kind of taking the spot of let's hire it out. Those that are professionals at it, let's let them do it. Even if it costs a little bit more money, the ROI should be there. So that's kind of the direction we're going in our marketing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think that's good. Just real quick though, I think that's that's good because you play to your strengths, right, Sam? I think a lot of people in our industry just feel like, I think that's smart idea, right? You recognize like you guys aren't the best in that area, so let's find someone better, and you focus on obviously what you're good at, which is acquiring deals. And it makes a lot of sense, and I think more people should be doing that, but they think they need to do it all. And that's why it breaks down. And knowing your numbers, like Don's been tracking, direct mail for years. I've just got back into direct mail, so I'm only probably 6-7 weeks in. I'm massive into cold calling, and I actually hired someone out of St. Louis for direct mail. Same thing. I think that's super smart, and more people, should do it. So I just wanted to, throw that out there. Just real quick, Don, I know you have another question you're going to ask. Guys, if you are watching and you have any questions for any of us, including Sam. Again, he is a wealth of knowledge, doing a lot of deals, so now's a good chance to ask away. So make sure you're doing that. If you're also watching us YouTube or Facebook, give us a like, subscribe, share the post. We want to reach as many people as possible. We appreciate it. Sorry, Don, carry on.
No. So St. Louis is an interesting market, to say the least. I know that there's areas that are, abundant with deals that a lot of people won't touch with a 10-foot pole and stuff like that. Have you found ways to monetize some of those areas or keep properties in some of those areas that people try to stay away from? Is that something you've managed to do, or have you just found that there are areas you can't give properties away in St. Louis and are not even worth doing?
Yeah, kind of the latter. We have, some areas that we won't really mess with. We kind of have no buy zip codes where we won't buy. So yeah, it just kind of depends. We'll try to do our best to, maybe get under contract with a contingency and try and shop it out. But we've tried that for a few different times. It seems like we go in phases where we're, all right, let's do it. Let's go all in. And then, our buyers are complaining because, they've gotten 40 leads in the past month that haven't turned into anything because we can't sell them. So it seems like we go in waves depending on how, I guess, bullish we're feeling at the time. But yeah, there's definitely, like you said, St. Louis is an interesting market with some like really good areas and rough areas. I know every city has that, but St. Louis has, 88 different municipalities with, 88 different codes and occupancies and all this crazy stuff that makes it kind of a pain for outsiders. I think that's part of the reason why it hasn't been swept up as much by these iBuyers and hedge funds, because it's hard for them to grasp and get data on all these little different things. One municipality, you have to get a freaking permit to paint, and another one you don't. So it's just all this crazy stuff that goes on that kind of is a benefit for us. But there are definitely areas that we avoid as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in St. Louis probably 4 or 5 times a year, and I've had a lot of conversations with investors there. And I throw it out there for anybody listening that's not from St. Louis. It's definitely a weird market. There is a lot going on there. Definitely a lot of opportunity there, but you can step in a pile if you're not careful and buy the wrong property in the wrong area. So it's kind of fun to watch you guys do what you do there. So rehabbing and stuff like that. How many rehabs are you guys doing a year right now?
Probably, I think we're going to end this year maybe like 75 or 80, somewhere along those lines. So not a ton, but we always got 3 to 6 going on at a time, kind of thing.
Okay, so what does that look like for you as far as infrastructure? Like, are you running contractors? Are you running subs, like project managers? Like, break all that down for me. How does that all look?
Yeah, so we get the house that comes in, and then we got a sales manager that manages our 4 buyers, and they all kind of collectively decide what the best exit strategy is if we're not going to keep it as a rental. Obviously most of the buyers want us to rehab them because they're higher. You potentially, hopefully, are getting a higher return, but we just don't want to rehab every single house just because of the risk and the resources that it takes. So what we have is a project manager in-house, an employee that manages all the rehabs for us. He directly deals with all the subcontractors, all the contractors. We have kind of 2 crews that work not. Pretty much, I'd say 90% of their work is for us. They work pretty much solely for us. They're 1099 contractors, but they're working for us. They're doing some other side projects, and we kind of keep them fed. And then if we have another, if they're each doing 2 or 3 and we have another one come in, then our project manager's job is to kind of piecemeal that together and make that project go as quickly and efficiently as possible. So he's visiting the projects all the time, dealing with the contractors, getting lien waivers signed, getting everything done. And it's kind of his job to just churn and burn those rehab projects as, efficiently and effectively as possible, while obviously still doing quality work. So it's mainly out of house, not in house. It's just our one project manager. But we've toyed around with kind of having our own construction company, do it in house, and having our employees so you can control them a little bit more. But haven't gone that route yet, but we're kicking it around.
Okay, very cool. Gavin, I'll turn the floor over to you, buddy.
Yeah, no worries. We got a few questions here. We got Matt saying hello, VIP Matt. Matt, next week you need to have the Matt VIP.
We need to get Matt on this show, actually.
We do.
Yeah.
Matt, let's line you up. Well, Don, Matt, right?
I'll get Matt lined up. Yeah.
Let's get him lined up. I think we already kind of talked about this earlier. This question's been sitting for a while, so I think we actually already kind of talked about this. Because you just said you're doing rehabs, and obviously you handpick the rentals. And you're saying here, whoever RB151 is that you're a realtor in Miami and you have an overload of possible investment opportunities. Now, from my point of view, if you have opportunities in Miami, okay, you should be making tons of money. Miami is a hard market. It's a competitive market. So if you're stumbling across and overloaded with opportunities, you need to start locking up some deals because you're going to make a ton of money, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think on that.
Well, RB, let me just put this out there. My email is don@fliptalk.com.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, and if you got a ton of opportunities in Miami, you just email me. And if they're legitimate opportunities, we'll make some money together. How's that?
Yeah. And I'll have my name, and Sam's probably thinking, don't leave me behind. He's in as well. Yeah. All right. Got another question here. What makes you avoid areas? So, Sam, when we're talking about areas, what are you avoiding?
That's it. Yeah. Before you answer that, that's a great question because like I love war zones in the markets that I'm in. Like those are, you buy the houses for 10 or 15 grand, you put 50 into them, and you make a ton of money. You turn around and sell them for 150 grand. And people want to stay in neighborhoods that their families in, they've grown up in, and I'd love the opportunities to work in some of the harder areas to maybe keep your stuff safe. So what makes St. Louis different, I guess, is the way I would phrase that question.
Yeah. So a couple of things. So for like the rental properties, we just like to have appreciation and cash flow. In these war zones, these tougher areas, these properties aren't going to go up a ton in value, but you cash flow a lot. So we just like to, everybody has a different niche and things they like or don't like. We just like to have our rentals in, kind of more working class areas. But as far as, St. Louis, what makes it different, I mean, there's houses in St. Louis in a few different pockets that you can't even sell for $5,000 or $10,000 in good condition. So, if you can't sell it, I guess you could keep it as a rental, but then there's some pretty rough areas. I know a lot of people in most cities have rough areas, but there's St. Louis, $150,000 houses in an okay area. That's, a B- area, C+ area. So, these really, really rough areas, they're $5,000, $10,000 houses that you can't give away. Or, you're dealing with a lot of crime, dealing with a lot of issues with the house and, collecting rent and all that kind of stuff. So in St. Louis, just a few pockets, not a ton of them, where it's just almost too much hassle than it is worth it, because the property's not going to go up in value. It's a $10,000 house that you're hopefully going to be able to collect cash flow on. So it's just an area that we're not good at it. We're not as good at it, honestly. So we're going to focus on the areas and places we're familiar with and that we're good at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
And I want to say as well, people, a lot of people teach like go and look where the activity is, right? If you're going to go virtual in particular, right, you want to go where people are buying. Now, what you have to watch in certain markets is the war zones will actually come up first, because it's actually people, the general public are buying cash. Because again, in Alabama, we can buy a house for $3,000. So it doesn't mean that they're actually an investor buying it. They're just there's a family member that's buying a house for $3,000. So your cash sales are up in them areas sometimes. So people have to, make sure they're double checking that, looking at the price points of them homes as well when they're actually researching the zip codes that they want to be in. Because again, I think sometimes that they show up. I don't know if you guys find that. Sam, I don't think you're doing virtual at all, right?
Nope, just all local.
All local. Don, do you agree with that or not?
I agree with that. We were always having a learning curve when we go into any market as far as like where buyers, like there's, we're in a couple of markets virtually where we locked up houses. We thought for sure knock it out of the park home runs. Like in our market, we'd rehab this neighborhood any day of the week, and we couldn't get the houses off our books. So, learning what the buyers are willing to buy is significant. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Matt's got a question here. What do you avoid during flips? Like, do you not flip on a floor zone,
Probably
commercial zone, single family? So yeah, do you have, I guess what he's getting at here is, like, is there a certain size rehab? Like, if it's too much work, do you have a limit that you want to put into a rehab? I guess it's a two-part question. Is there a limit on the rehab size that you guys will do? And then is there certain zoning, like, flood zone, stuff like that?
Yeah, so we just want to turn them and burn them. That's our strategy. We've done the big rehabs, we've done the medium rehabs, we've done the smaller rehabs, and we just like to get in and out quickly. There's less risk. The market's not going to shift as much in 3 months as it could in 10 months. Recently, the longer you hold it, the more it's worth. So it's almost the opposite of what usually things go. But yeah, we like to just be, I would say 50 grand or less is where we like to be, just because we can have them and manage them. It's usually a newer construction property, 1950s or 60s or newer, not have to deal with knob and tube and all this crazy, stone foundations that, you get to when you get to the early 1900s. So we'll wholesale anything. But as far as what we're going to keep and flip, it's, those simple, quick, easy, cosmetic rehabs. Like I said, we've done a little bit of everything, but it's just we're realizing and trying to focus on what we're good at. That's why we're hiring out marketing, and that's why we're focusing on these smaller flips, just because that's what we're good at. There's people in St. Louis that do 3 flips a year and put 250 grand into it and make 400 grand a flip that crush it. But that's not our space we want to be in. So yeah, we if it's simple then and quick, we'll rehab it. If it's a flood zone or a weird zoning or something along those lines, we'll wholesale that one out, because there's plenty of people that do much better than us in that space, can make really good money. So we'll just make our little markup and they can go crush it in that, and we'll just move on to the next one.
Yeah. And that's where we got deep. I talk about it every week, it seems, but we've got 3 right now. And we just went in too deep in terms of the rehab size. I mean, we've done, on the last 6 we've had a rehab budget of over 100 grand on 2 of them, which are big rehabs, right?
Mhm.
And we're not equipped for that kind of stuff. But you're in it. You look at the numbers work, but it's just a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time. And if I could go back 5-6 months, I would have put that in. We started going, if it makes sense, we'll take it if the numbers work. And it shouldn't have been that. It should have been, if we can do it fast and efficient, put 5-10 grand in and get it on and be done in a month. That's what we should have done, but we didn't. We turned in, thought that's what we were going to do. And then our budgets, our rehab budgets were huge, and it's a lot of work. Don, what do you do? I mean, you're flipping a lot of rehabs. Do you have a limit, or are you just taking anything that makes sense?
Well, I mean, we have a limit. If you're going to do volume, you gotta kind of take anything that makes sense to a certain degree, but you got to have a buy box too. So I'm one of the thought that you can't stay in properties for a long period of time. I like to be in and out of them about 100 days, and that's check to check, close to close. So we've done the larger projects. Let me kind of rephrase that. We're based on annualized ROI. That's how we base it. Like, so if we take 100 grand, we want to make, say, 15% ROI on that. So we want to make 15 grand on 100 grand every 120 days is essentially how we factor it. So on $100,000, the minimum we want to make is 45% on the money per year. And obviously we work to beat that, and so on and so forth. And we borrow 100% from our lenders. So actually our return is infinite. There's a whole rabbit hole I can go down with that. But the point is that when you look at your when you're developing your buy box, you're trying to figure out, like, do I want to make 30 grand every property, or do I want to make a percentage on every property, or whatever? You're looking at like, what is that ultimately? What's the pain threshold you want to go through to make that money? For us, we realize, since we're going on an annualized ROI, that we want to be in and out of those projects, and the higher end projects, you're not in and out of them. So if it takes me 6 months to turn a higher end property, and I only do it 2 times in a year, yes, I might make a bigger chunk of money, but when you look at the annualized return, it's probably lower than doing a bunch of little properties, if that makes sense. Does that breakdown make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah. So the point is our buy box is, we want to stay in your first time, second time home buyer price point. And we want to turn those properties. Our goal is 100 days. We want to average 120 days. So we want to turn that money 3 times in a year, and we stay there. And we found that every time we go into higher end properties, that it just bogs down the team, it bogs down our turn times, and we end up making less money in the long run.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And
yeah.
and again, that's not what I fell into. That
Right.
same thing.
Right.
That's the same thing.
I know people that want to make 30 grand to flip, and they don't care if they bought the house for 100 grand, they bought the house for $750,000. As long as they make 30 grand, they don't care. And that makes zero sense to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really good. That's really good. So I guess, Don, just a quick one on that while we were talking about it. You've done the rehab in 90 and then you allow a 40-day close? Is that kind of what what you
No.
allow for your 120? Are you talking 120 from buy and sell done off the market?
We want our worst case scenario to be 120 days, 4 months. Like we bought it and we've done everything we need to do. We've listed it. We've gone through the process of selling it and we've closed. We average, we tend to average around 100 days. So from the time we pick it up and done everything we're going to do to it, until the time we get our check, is averages about 100 days. But the math we do for our buy box, whenever we project on a property, is this is our interest for 4 months, or this from everything is based on 4 months, and we want to be out of it in 4 months max. And that's if we can't be out of it in 4 months max, we'll generally wholesale it or just not do the deal.
Yeah, no, really good. All right, we got another question here. Thanks for answering my questions. I came across Wholesale and excited to get started. Any advice you can give? I mean, I guess there's a lot of advice that we can all give. I think the first thing is go and follow us all on social media, YouTube channels, podcasts. You're on this show. Make sure you join us every week and just start absorbing some information and kind of find out who you like. Oh no, the Dodge will be on in a minute. Find out who you like, who you want to work with, who you want to follow. That's what I would suggest that you do, is just to start taking, look up. You can search me, Gavin Timms, Don Costa, David Dodge, Sam Prim as well. We all give content and kind of find out, what you like. That's what I would say would be a good start. And then we can dive into the strategy here. What would you say, Sam, if someone has asked this question? What advice would you give to somebody that's asking this question?
So there's kind of two things I always tell people. The first is, there's so much free resources out there. So like you said, follow us and other people that are actively investing. Make sure you're following people that are actively investing, not invested 10 years ago and wrote a book and are living off of that. So people that are actively investing, follow them. But then you got to get involved in whatever community you're investing, whether you're doing a virtual or local. You got to lean on these other people. You got to join your local meetups and the Facebook groups. And there's Facebook groups are hit and miss, but just you have to get to know local people. You have to know contractors and people to buy houses from, sell houses to, real estate agents, wholesalers, hard money, private money, all that kind of stuff. You got to get a network of people. Your Rolodex needs to get up as quickly as possible, and you do that by getting involved in your local community. You can go to those meetups and you can meet everybody you need to meet at one meetup. So don't try and do it on your own. Don't think I'm not going to pay for help, or I'm not going to spend the time going out and meeting these people. Go out and meet as many people as you can. Just a couple connections can change your life. So just go out and make as many connections as you can.
Love that. Awesome. Dave is about to join us. He just landed, so he said he's going to be on here in a few minutes. So he's going to be joining us. A topic that I did have, and again, guys, if you have questions, make sure you ask away. Put them in the chat. We'll answer your questions. So type them in. What do you guys think about Zillow? Just happened.
Who's Zillow? Kidding.
Yeah. What's going on? What do you think on that? Sam, you go.
So I'm usually more of it's not the worst thing in the world. It's not the best. It's kind of in the middle, more of like overreactions from people. I haven't done a ton of research. I obviously know what's going on, and I know they stopped buying houses. Now they're selling all their houses and they're not going to be buying anymore. That's what they say. I just think they got in over their head. I know they bought like 4,000 houses last year, and then they bought 4,000 houses last quarter. So I think they just bought too many houses. The market's kind of starting to stop doing this. It's hopefully slowing down a little bit, but it's obviously, I think, can continue to be strong. They just started owning houses that they looked ahead. They're going to own them for 6 to 12 months before they get a contractor in them, and they're borrowing money. So they're not going to be able to turn them as quickly. And they're probably thinking the market may soften next year. So get out, cut our losses now. It's really tough to flip that many houses. We have a local crew, and it's still hard to get continual solid work, materials and labor, and they're borrowing money, and you're going to sit on these houses for months and months and months. It's going to be tough to make money, especially if the market stops shooting up like crazy. So I just think they bit off more they can chew, and it was eating into some of their other parts of their business that are actually profitable. So they're just saying, we're tapping out. I wouldn't be surprised if they got back in if the market shifts a little bit, but that's my take on it. I don't know that there's any conspiracy that the market's going to come tumbling down. I just think they just got in over their head, and flipping houses is not easy. So I think they just did too much, but that's my thoughts. I would be definitely interested in your guys' thoughts.
I think they're a technology company that had more money than they knew what to do with, and decided they're going to be smarter than they really were, and realized that they weren't. That's really what it comes down to. And competition is fierce in this business. I mean, even at the iBuyer level, the competition is fierce. You got hedge funds, in the shadows that people don't even realize are in their markets a lot of times, and buying up inventory, and we're either hustling networking, hustling dollars, in marketing spend to get the deals we get, to get the homeowners' attention. They're obviously spending, a lot more than we probably are in a lot of markets, to get a homeowner's attention, let them know they're there. So, and then they don't have the efficient machine, and I think a handful of these iBuyers will get schooled and go out of the market at some point, but we'll see. I'm sure some will stick around. Some will figure it out, but there's always more money out there that can be grabbed and used and stuff like that. So I think someone will stick around, but I think Zillow's the first of a few that'll probably back out of the market.
Yeah, and to piggyback off on that real quick, Don. Yeah, so Zillow's got billions of dollars, and they're this big company. But I'd take my company, your company, any day against them as far as getting a property under contract. Right. My buyers in the house, negotiating a good fair price, closing on it, turning and burning it quickly. With the buyers we have, exit strategy. So I don't know that they understood or know that just because we're not big companies, we got it, and you guys, I'm sure too, have it down to pretty good science. We're not don't as much money as them, but we're a tough competition to go against, and I think they're kind of seeing that it's not as easy as it looks on paper from a building in New York or wherever the hell their headquarters is.
Yeah,
right.
I think it was going to happen. I mean, it just seemed. It was common sense. What's happened was bound to happen. They can't keep buying at that rate. And to your point, the rehabs are getting pushed back. They're holding all this money. It just seemed like, again, a tech company with too much money just thought, oh yeah, we can do this, and it's just been an absolute disaster for them. Matt said here in the comments that he thinks they might be dumping it for a loss. For tax write-off. Yeah, probably, maybe some of them as well. That's probably why they were pumping money in to save on that. Just the way they went about it though, and it was just crazy. So I think it was always going to come. My opinion was always going to go this way because they can't maintain that. Well,
look, tech companies traditionally operate at a loss for a number of years, right? That's traditionally how tech companies run. And then their subscriber base or whatever will, advertising dollars, whatever will catch up and then surpass, and they'll become profitable, go public and be superstars, right? I mean, that's the tech dream. And I think tech companies are coming into real estate trying to operate the same way, operate a loss for a period of time. Real estate's a lot more volatile, than, some of the stuff that they typically deal with. And then you have the human component, right? I mean, my God, figuring out the whole contractor game, it's like going to school for brain surgery. I mean, It's like, that managing that people component, being able to read and understand like who you're working with, being able to look for the signs, somebody to take advantage of you, all those things, the shoddy work behind a wall that looks good, if you're a big, massive company with bureaucracy and everything else, you're not going to catch all these ways that you could lose money fast enough. And I think that's where they're getting schooled is that the infrastructure behind trying to be a real estate investor, it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, anybody can do it, but to do it well, it takes experience. It takes getting kicked in the nuts a few times, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and houses aren't widgets, right? There's like there's stuff behind walls. Every house is different. Every rehab is different. All three of us could go look at a house, and I guarantee you all of our rehab budgets are different, and none of them are wrong. So they're not widgets. So you can't just like turn and burn them like an assembly line. There's so much that goes into them that it's just super hard to scale at that level as quickly as they did. I don't want to take over here, but I would be interested if somebody doesn't ask. I want your guys' thoughts on the market, if you don't mind. I'm sure you do this a lot, but you guys are in the market a lot more widespread than I am. I'm just in St. Louis. So curious what your thoughts on what the market's going to look like. Nobody has a crystal ball, but in the next 12 to 24 months.
I am going to say the same thing I said when COVID hit. prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Look, I started in 2003, 4, and 5, and I made a lot of money really, really fast and thought everything I touched turned to gold. And I guarantee you there's a handful of people that started in the last couple of years that think they're friggin' geniuses. And they're not. You know, just because you can go over on budget and take longer to rehab your house than you meant to, and you go through 3 contractors and you still make more money than you projected, does not mean you're smart or good at what you do. So I think running a real business now is more important than ever because none of us do have a crystal ball. There's no prediction. The market's artificially propped up. They're offering. I mean, I got buddies in the real estate game that, you know, took EIDLs, took the first round, got offered $500,000 for the second round, took the second round, and now they're getting offered 1.8. You know, and people in the public, I guarantee you, other businesses are getting those kind of offers. People in the public aren't seeing that these businesses are artificially propped up. The public, their paychecks are artificially propped up. You have all these things that are going on behind the scenes that are driving the market that aren't real. And at some point, it's going to stop. The music's going to stop, and somebody's going to pull your chair. You know, and you just got to be ready for that. And so I think the most important thing for me to say is I don't know what the hell's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to last another 5 years or if it's going to last, 6 months. But what I do know is you need to be ready for whatever happens when it happens. Take advantage of it while it's going good. Run a smart business. Run a solid business. Make sure that you're not letting your systems and processes slip away because you're making more money than you know what to do with, and just run a good business. And when the music stops, you're ready for it. The one thing I will say though is I do not think 2008 is going to happen again because they figured out how to prop up homeowners with modifications. They figured out how to prop up institutions and allow them to keep shadow inventory. And I think that if we have a massive foreclosure surge like we did in 2008, I think a lot of those will be modified really, really quick out the door. And whatever doesn't get modified will probably be shadow inventory and be pieced out into the market. The mistake in 2008 when it fell apart was because they flooded the market with inventory. And I do not think they'll do that again. I think that we'll have a soft land compared to a hard fall, but that's me guessing, and that's worth basically the air I breathe, which is not much.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, for me, I always invest for today, right? In terms of my decision making, is all about today. I don't try and predict anything because we don't know. Now I am in obviously flips right now, so I guess I'm not as my model normally. Sam, I'm pretty recession proof. I wholesale, and pretty much if I do creative deals, I wholesale them. I've never been like holding too much. So I feel that with that model, your prices just adjust, right? And if you're a marketer first, you can always find deals if you know how to market. So I will say that. Now, when you start holding and you start doing the burr and you start doing flips and you're doing all that, I think you definitely have to pay more of attention to the market because you can, your pants can be down before you know it, right? And you're in a right mess. So that's why personally, and Dave's not on here, but me and Don go back and forth and joke and we all laugh because we all have different models and thought processes. I'm not a massive fan of the burr personally on the big scale. I would prefer, like, my investments are more that I use for Airbnb and how do I maximize them profits. And it's normally I try and buy in areas that I personally want to be. So I'm looking at a house in Phoenix because I want to be there for 4 months myself, and then I'll Airbnb it when I'm not in it, right? And I try and wash costs and gain equity by doing that. That's just my opinion. In terms of the market, though, I think it is softening. I'm already seeing it in Birmingham, Alabama, where I have flips things, and it's more down to more inventory coming on the market. We are not seeing over asking craziness, especially in that market. And things are sitting longer than it was, right? It was easy, as Don said, when we got heavily into flipping, and I made the judgment call because I've seen all these over asking, these houses going over asking. So it's like, if we can keep the spread where we're at and they're going to pay more, then we just get more spreads. Like, we need to go heavy. And we did. But now I've been left with 3 where now, if you would have said 6 weeks ago, this one in particular, they would only have been the only house in the neighborhood for sale 6 weeks ago. There's now 20 for sale. Okay, so now we have a problem or a little issue where we have a rehabbed house that's good, that's now a higher price point, and now people are bringing their homes on the market for less money that need work, but they're livable. And now we have competition trying to get rid of it. So our amount that we wanted to get, we're now not going to hit because there's more homes on there. So I believe that it is softening.
Yeah, that I want to say that is a product of the season, though. One of the things that I don't think we had in 2020 was the traditional real estate season, right? You're hot going into spring and summer. You start to cool off as kids go back to school, and then you pace down into the holidays where you kind of soften again, and then January starts to pick up the pace, right? So part of the softening in markets, I don't want everybody to hear this and freak out. My belief is part of the market softening that people are feeling right now is the traditional season. We're going into Thanksgiving, we're going into Christmas, and we're going into winter in some states where people, it's going to snow and rain, already is snow and raining, and people aren't going to be out looking at homes. So that's part of it. But that doesn't mean that that's the only reason things are slowing down, but that's part of the reason.
Yeah, no, I agree. So yeah, that's my take on it. Sam, I don't know if that gives you any indication at all. But I do want to jump. We have got a question here from Matt back into the Burr. So how does the money work on the Burr? Can you get a bunch of bank loans in your LLC name once rehabbed? So kind of, and are you using obviously private money to take them down? So give us a little walkthrough on a particular deal, how it kind of works for you. How do you run it?
Yeah, so exactly what kind of the question alludes to. So using private money is ideal to buy a property and fix it up. So, you buy a distressed property for $100,000 and you put 50 into it. So you have $150,000 of a private lender's money in the deal. You get the property rented. Then you take it to a small local bank and they will lend you up to 80% of the appraised value. So you don't have to put 20% down. They just want to make sure there's 20% equity in the deal. They don't really care about that cash. These banks don't. They just want to make sure there's equity. So, that property appraises for $200,000. 80% of that is 160. So you take that 160 that you got, you pay back your lender their 150 that you used to buy it and fix it up. And then now you have a rental property that you have a mortgage on and owning expenses, but you're getting rent coming in every single month. So it's just a way to kind of back into that 20% down. And that's how the money works. Yeah, private or hard money up front, and then long-term bank financing at low rates that you can actually cash flow with. And then, you can have as many properties as you want in LLCs. There's no limit to how many properties you can own. So it's something that we do a lot of. That method, it just allows you to scale much quicker than having to put 20% down. And as long as you're buying at discounts and adding value, and have equity built in, 20, 30% equity off the bat, you should be okay. And if you're dealing with the right local banks, we're talking about the market potentially shifting. The banks that I talk to and deal with, hopefully, talking to them and what happened in 2008, it doesn't really honestly matter that much what your property's worth, as long as it doesn't go to zero, as long as you're making your mortgage payments and as long as you're getting it rented. So if you can operate that asset efficiently, the price is going to do this over the next 30 years that I'm going to own it. As long as I'm not looking to sell it, a dip or a rise shouldn't affect it too much if I'm not trying to sell it or refinance it. So that's kind of a little thoughts on how the money flows through a Burr deal.
Yeah, and for people getting in new to Burr, Sam, is this for most people, it's 6 months, right? Normally seasoning. You have to own it for 6 months. Is that, or is that not right? Would you say that if you go to the bank, they will do it at 3? Because I thought it was only building that relationship through doing more of them. But if I'm like, I'm brand new, I want to do a Burr, I'm going to go and refi. Are most people wanting 6 months or not?
Here in St. Louis, and like we talked a little bit earlier, we're a little bit different of an animal. No, most banks, if it's the right small local banks that deal with these type of loans a lot, most that I've heard of here and kind of around the country, depending on you, if you have a good job and good income and good credit score, and or you have a good partner that has that, they're okay with a few months of seasoning. Like you said, it's not a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan, so it doesn't have to be 6 months season. It doesn't have to be 12-month season. There's no rules that require the bank to do that. It's just what the bank wants to do, as kind of what you alluded to, Gavin. It's that relationship base. So if you can develop a good relationship up first and have good financial stability, I think most banks will do it in less than 6 months because you want to get out of that, that 8 to 12% money and get into that 4% money. So it really just depends on each situation. I know I hate depends answers, but most of the time, if you're sitting in a decent position, I think you can get it done with little to no seasoning, but maybe the one a month or two. Like when we got started, one bank wanted 3 months of seasoning. The other two banks we deal with and dealt with didn't care as long as we showed them a lease that it was going to be rented. So it just kind of depends on the situation and the person. If it's a riskier loan and your credit score is maybe like 675 and you don't make a ton of money, maybe they will want to see it rented for 6 months to prove that it is an asset that produces cash that you know how to manage. So it just kind of depends on the bank and the person.
No, I think that's good, and I think that's important for people to understand, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to go and borrow your private money because you know someone, do your rehab, and then all of a sudden your credit sucks and all these things, and then you can't get financed, right? So would you suggest people go and actually get kind of like pre-qualified, speak to the bank before they even take anything down?
100%. Go and talk to, I went to 20 banks before one said yes to me when I got started. So I'll talk to the wrong banks first off, but yeah. So just go to these banks, tell them, this is a A-type deal that I'm hoping to bring to you, this area, this price point, rents for this. Is this something that you would be interested in doing a cash out refinance on? What percentage do you cash out refinance, and get their terms and try to buy something that fits their criteria to make it easy for that first deal. And then after you do a few more, like these banks, these small local banks, it's crazy. They won't do anything, but they have very little rules that they have to follow because, they're keeping the notes in house. So it's really cool, really crazy. Some banks that we deal with have done some insane stuff that's really beneficial for us. Like we have, 10-year arms on our notes at 30 years on a commercial loan, which is pretty crazy. So the banks they can do a lot if you build that relationship. But yeah, I would go get kind of pre-approved first, or get some type of guidance limit or guidance type of property that they're going to want to invest in before you do it. If you do that after the fact, you never know. They could be like, no way. And hopefully there's enough equity you can sell it, and still be okay. That's a kind of cool thing about real estate. If there's equity, you can sell it and get out of it. But I would have some type of approval or some type of, handshake agreement that they'll do a loan of this type of product that you're going after.
Yeah, I want to point out that you mentioned local banks, and that's primarily who people should be talking to. The giant corporations aren't going to be your best bet. So I just want to hammer that in, that local banks, you want to start creating those relationships. Dave gave great advice on one of the shows. I just want to throw out there and repeat it. And that was, let the lenders coach you. Walk into the bank and ask the bank if they're willing to do it. And if they're not, ask them, what do I need to do for you to be able to do this for me? And I thought that was great advice. What do you need to see? What do I need to have in line? What's your criteria? And if I do X, Y, and Z, would you? And I thought that was great advice.
For sure. 100% agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to hit a couple more questions here. We're actually 2 minutes over the hour. So Sam, we want to be, watching the time. We appreciate it. We don't want to go too much over here. So we appreciate you joining. Just a couple more questions, and then we we'll be done here. Larry has a question. Is anyone using life insurance plans to borrow from to do real estate deals?
I am not. No, I know some people that do those, custom whole life policies and do that, to borrow against. But I don't do it. I know I have one that I do some things with, but I don't do real estate with. You got to put a lot of money in them pretty quickly to get that cash to borrow against. But it's a great tool if you have a lot of money that you can put into a policy.
Yeah, I don't know either. So
I know a handful of people that do it. I don't personally do it myself, but I know people do. Yeah.
Okay. So you're doing loan in your personal name, or using the EIN credit? So you're doing it in the LLC, right? You're not using. Well, I guess they still look at your personal stuff, but it's in the LLC, right?
Correct. Especially at first, they're going to weigh heavily on your personal credit, your personal income, all that stuff at first until you develop a business, credit and kind of a business backbone. So yeah, so everything is in the LLC, legally and accounting purposes. Kind of nice to have them separate than your personal assets. But yeah, they're going to look at your personal name. They're going to look at your personal credit always, I think, or at least for a long time, and probably still make you personally guarantee it. So you still got to have some skin in the game. They're doing a pretty cool thing, not allow you to put any money into a deal. So you kind of got to put yourself on the line a little bit. But legally and accounting, that's the main reason we have the LLCs, to separate our assets, personal and business. But as far as like you having your butt on the line, it's still going to be on the line, even though your LLC owns it as far as financially.
Yeah, really good, really good. And last question, we've kind of talked about this, but is the Bird method really that simple? Do you need any money or good credit? So we kind of talked about you do need good credit to do this, and I'm glad that you use the word simple and not easy. It's simple from what they are the steps. It's just like wholesaling. It's simple, but nothing's ever easy to do because you have to actually do it. So that's what I would say. Anyone say anything different to that one?
Agree. Nope. You need money, but it doesn't have to be your money, and you need credit, but honestly, it doesn't have to be your credit. You can partner with an older parent or older sibling that has good credit. You do the hard work, bring the deal, rehab it, all that, and use their credit to help until you get your credit up. So if you have no money or no credit, obviously wholesaling is probably your best option, right, Gavin? But you can do the birds. You just got to get creative.
Yeah, absolutely. Which comes back to networking, right? I think that's the thing. Do I have my shirt? REI Network. I always like to say that. That's why I called it, because it is. If you notice, every guest that we have on, it's all about relationships and networking. That's what me and Dave and Don did to even get this show going. Sam's saying the same thing, networking with the banks, with lenders, with cash buyers, with other wholesalers, with all that kind of stuff. And if you can get in the right circle of people, you can make things happen.
Let's talk about that circle real quick, because I am in Nashville right now for an Inner Circle Elite meeting. If you're looking for a mastermind community, make sure you go to beinthisroom.com and apply and come check us out. We have an amazing group of people that are running amazing businesses, and we get real, we get raw, and we get down to it to help you build your business. So just want to throw that out there, beinthisroom.com. All right, let's close it up.
Check it out. All right. Well, look, no, beinthisroom.com. Check it out. Exactly right. You need to be in the right room with the right people. So Sam, we appreciate you, bud. Again, good to see you again. We kind of met over there in Batch. So it's good to chat and connect. Thank you so much. You've dropped a lot of knowledge. Just real quick, Sam, if anyone wants to follow you, where do they do that?
TikTok. Don't laugh. TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, all at the name at Sam Faster Freedom. All the platforms. DM me on Instagram if you'd like to chat. And then I'm actually going live on my YouTube channel in 2 hours at 2 Central. If any of these people want to get some more real estate knowledge, they can hop over there. I just do a Q&A there. So
awesome.
Perfect.
Love it. Love it. Well, guys, we see you every Wednesday, 9 Pacific, 11 Central, 12 Eastern. Coffee with Closers. We got more guests lined up, so make sure you join us live. Again, appreciate you, Don Costa. You have a good event. Have a good time with David Dodge today. I'm sure you will, and we'll see you next.